Morning. We'll just wait for a couple of people to join us and then we'll start. Yeah. If you've got any questions, please put it into chat. Yeah. Or question and answers. Yeah. And I'll try and pick up as many as I can. Yeah. Just give a couple of minutes for people to join. So this is a change management awareness and overview session. If you've got any questions, just put it into chat or Q&A, whichever you're comfortable with. And as I go along, I'll try and pick as many up as I can. If it's talking about booking courses and things like that, this will be picked up at the end of the session by Suzanne or Jean-Paul. Yeah. There's still a few people joining us. Yeah. So my name's Andrea, and I'm going to just give you a little bit of an overview of change management, roughly for about an hour and a half. Yeah. And just give you some insights what change management really means. Yeah. So in partnership with Healthcare Project and Change Association, yeah, not-for-profit organisation, yeah, champions projects and change employees in the healthcare, yeah, and offers free advice, resources and support to employees in the healthcare. Okay. And if you want to know more about this organisation, please visit their website, HPCA. Yeah, just gives you an idea about change within the healthcare. So this just gives you a little background about Spoke. 30 years delivering projects and program training. There is a direct link with change management and project and program management. Yeah. Spoke recognised globally across the world, UK, Australia, Canada, and much more places across the world. Yeah. Learning options, you can do it in-house, online, virtual classroom. Yeah. You'll be familiar with some of those. Yeah. E-learning. Yeah. And some of the clients. Yeah. Healthcare, utilities, public sector, education. So there's a vast knowledge here. Yeah. And Spoke delivers Prince 2, MSP, Agile PM, change management. Yeah. And if you're looking at offers, please contact Suzanne or Jean-Paul, who are on the call today, and you can have a chat with them. Yeah. So what is change management? Yeah. Interesting. Change management has been around a long time. And a lot of research was done in the 1940s, just after the Second World War. And it was about how to cope with the devastation. And so a lot of research has come out of Harvard Business School around change management. And there is a direct link between the change management journey of individuals and what emotions they go through. And this is wrapped around project management. Yeah. And one of the things that you need to think about is taking people through the journey. Okay. Now we've got some little goldfish here jumping through, you know. As human beings, though, we don't particularly like change. Yeah. And so we need to think about how we can get the best out of people in organisations, how to support them. Yeah. Make sure they don't go off with sick. Yeah. Doing too much change, which is a common thing around change management. So this is Charles Handy's thoughts on change management. Yeah. Charles Handy is from Oxford University, 1960s, 1970s, and not just good but great. Companies that survive, yeah, are the ones that adapt to change and grow. Yeah. And I think this is very key, this last sentence here. Their ability to make people happy. Yeah. So when you're expecting people to change, one of the things that you need to think about is what they can get out of the change, how they can support the organisation, how we can grow together as one. Yeah. Be interesting to see what your thoughts are. Yeah. So if you want to put them in chat, or Q&A, yeah, and if you agree that it's all about taking people with you on this journey. So when we embark on change, one of the things the organisations need to think about, why do we need to change? Is it important? Do we have to change? Yeah. Can we stay the way we are? Yeah. As you know, in the last 50 years, technology is rapidly changing and organizations need to keep up with the technology changes. Yeah. Change solution. What's the focus and the scope of change? So what's the scope? How much change are we doing? Is it right for the organization? Is it something that we really need to think about very carefully? Are we doing too much change? Are people getting stressed out with change? Yeah. Change capability. This one's an interesting one because it talks about ability of organisations to manage change and provide support. Research says that senior management, so board of directors, often see that staff in general terms are able to change quickly and adapt. Yeah, but actually, in fact, people don't find it easy to adapt. Yeah, and over the last couple of years, you would have been exposed to COVID and working from home. And has that been easy to adapt using Teams, doing virtual stuff compared to going back into the office? You know, some of the organisations here might have been exposed to SharePoint. Yeah. New IT systems such as 365. How easy has it been for people to come to terms with using those types of systems? Was there sufficient training? Did we do an audit to see whether we had people who were capable of changing? Yeah. And the fourth bullet point is talking about change commitment. Yeah. Commitment by leaders, yeah, board of directors, sponsors, yeah. Are their hearts into it? Yeah. Have they sold the change and said, look, this is great for the organisation, but it's also great for the individual. Yeah. Because the first thing people are going to say, yeah, okay, great for the organisation. However, what's it in it for me? Yeah. And then one of the things that you would need to think about is flipping it upside down and go, okay, the organisation wants to do this, but what is the individual going to get out of the change? Yeah. And if they're not going to get anything out of the change, why would you want to change? Yeah. So sometimes you have to think about, are there winners, are there losers? And if staff are losers, then the change management is going to be a bumpy ride. Impact. Do we know how change will affect individuals and teams? You know, we're going to be looking at some of the big gurus that talk about the emotions individuals go through and the emotions of changing teams around. Yeah. So, okay, it might be good for the organisation, but not good for the individuals or teams. Be interested to see what your thoughts are on these 5 bullet points. Yeah. Some facts around change. Yeah. Only 34% of change initiatives succeed. Yeah. If you look at big organisations that have done some radical change over the years, they will tell you, such as BP, British Telecom, that it has taken a good 20 years to change the organisation, because it's not the organisation that makes the change, it is actually the individuals that make the change. And it's something that we are not very good at, is measuring for benefits of the change. So when we get to the end of a program and project, what tends to happen is we roll something out, then we close the project and program and forget about operations, business as usual, staff, end users, and just say, you know what, they'll just pick it up. Yeah. 97.7% of people need to adapt their businesses every 2 to 5 years. That's quite an interesting statement, but you've definitely seen it over the last 5 years with the rapid move to different ways of working, technology, yeah, keeping pace with things that are going outside the organisation. So that's talking about your external environment. Third bullet point, it'd be interesting to see what your thoughts are on this. 1 in 3 CEOs failed to achieve their desired outcome for the past transformation initiatives. Yeah. Do you agree with that statement? Don't you agree with that statement? Yeah. Fourth bullet point. 2/3 of workers experience burnout crisis with further cause of transformation failure. And this is contributed because in the perfect world, one of the things we need to do is this. So we're going to do change and embed, change and embed, change, embed. That's the perfect world. But we don't do that normally. We do more like this. And when you do things like this, what you're actually doing is you're asking people to constantly change. Yeah. You're asking people to keep the momentum of change for a long period of time, and that leads to burnout crisis. Yeah. You can quite easily tip over to this. You're going, okay, Andrea, what's that? That is anarchy, where we're not really sure where the change starts, where it finishes, where the benefits are coming from, only that we know our staff are exhausted and start going into sick leave and just won't do any transformation, i.e. change and changing behaviours. Yeah. Success, though, ability to reach your own goals in life is often defined as success. Yeah. But if you experience burnout crisis, yeah, then you won't meet your goals. Yeah. So it's important that organisations take people along the journey. Yeah. And the last bullet point is talking about organisations who believe they're capable of growth are more likely to achieve success. Yeah. You'd be surprised how many organisations go in with the idea that people will just follow them. People will just do as they're told. People will get used to burnout. People are prepared to do 50, 60 hours a week and not feel sick. Yeah. So if organisations believe they're capable of growth, then they have to believe that they need to take their people along with them. Yeah. And it'd be interesting to see what your thoughts are, whether your organisations are doing too much, whether you feel that your organisation has failed in some way around change. Did they take people with them? Can you see the benefits of the change? Yeah, that's a key to this as well. So what's change management all about? Yeah. One of the things that you need to think about is a lot of people are resistant to change. Yeah. Doesn't matter whether it's in your day-to-day life. Yeah, people just don't like change. Like moving house is meant to be one of the most stressful things in your life. Yeah, having new neighbours is meant to be stressful. Yeah. So as an organisation, yeah, go on, Nafus, ask a question as we go along. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's have a look at some of these comments. Yeah. So give me a thumbs up if you would like this. Okay. Approach to making people happy would probably differ from organisation to organisation. Yeah, totally agree with that. May be easy to notice in small organisations that changes towards making just a few happy and not based on merit. This is likely to impact the output of commitment individuals. Yeah, totally agree with that. You know, in a small organization, though, when you're looking at change, it's probably easier because you can take people with you. Yeah. So comms, face-to-face stuff. Yeah. Yeah. But when you're talking about large organizations, what you tend to find is that with large organizations, they try to do too much. Yeah. And that is because someone at the top decides that we might do a restructuring, we might move people around, we might mess around with their terms and conditions, might introduce new IT. And it's interesting what you see with the senior management team is they just say they'll just get used to it, you know, and the consequences are quite high because what actually happens is you get burnout and then you start seeing people go off with sick. Yeah. And also, when you do this for long periods of time, some organizations have been in transformational change for 5-10 years, is people go, oh, here we go again. Yeah. We don't want to change anymore. We just want to just turn up, do our minimum and leave. You see that as quite common. Can you share where you got the 34% success rate from? Yes, that's come from Harvard Business School. Yeah, there's lots and lots of research around change management. Yeah, CEOs failure, organizations that although they've been on large transformational programs, culture hasn't changed. Yeah. Agree with CEO bullet point. We have suffered change fatigue because of constant changing priorities, and we start but don't seem to complete or embed the change to the business as usual. Yeah. If you go back to this diagram that's on the PowerPoint slide, the first one, yeah, what should happen is you roll out change, you give people time to absorb it, and then you go off and do more change. You don't keep going. If you keep doing that, what will actually happen? Two things. People will get burnt out. And secondly, what will happen is you won't be able to realise the benefits, or you won't know where the benefits come from. Yeah. And people need to be able to be taken along the journey. Yeah. Anyone else got any thoughts on this slide? Yeah. So let's have a look at this slide. Yeah. Oh, go back a bit. Unlock resistance to change. Okay. As I said, most people don't want to change. Yeah. So one of the things that an organization needs to do is understand how much resistance they are likely to face. Yeah. So it might be great for the organization. Yeah. But it's not good for the individual. And if that's the case, then you're going to have high resistance. Yeah. People are frightened. Yeah. Provide effective support and motivation. So one of the things that organizations need to think about is how to support people. Yeah. How to get people through the change. Yeah. So the sort of thing I'm talking about is, and you've mentioned in chat, is the comms, making sure that people have the right comms, making sure that you do honest comms. Now, honest comms is just being honest with the individual and saying, look, we've got to change, and there will be winners and losers. Yeah? If you don't tell people this, and a lot of organisations don't, what actually happens is that Chinese whispers start and people start going 2 + 2 = 6. Yeah. And if you were straightforward with them, they go, look, this is what's going to happen. We may have redundancies. Yeah. And that's a fact because we need to change. I think that's more important than hiding what is actually really happening in the business. Yeah. The third bullet point is talking about draw from a range of professional approaches to implement change smoothly and effectively. So one of the things we're going to be looking at today is different techniques. Yeah. Each technique has to be wrapped around the organisation. So you have to choose the right technique for the right organisation. Yeah. Manage and inform stakeholders. This is about comms. Okay. So what tends to happen is this. So we have lots of comms here. Then we go into what we call a black hole and don't tell anyone anything. And then we do comms when we're rolling out. Okay. That's not good practice. Happens a lot in organisations. What should happen is this. These little points at the top are talking about comms, but also you're selling in benefits. Yeah. So you're telling them this is where we are, this is what we've achieved, and these are the benefits, and we can see the benefits. Yeah. And speed up the implementation of change initiatives. One of the things that you need to be mindful of is if you can run it on the side of your program and project management methodology, then you can link it back into projects and programs, and then you'll be able to see the benefits of implementation. So this could be pilots, this could be a proof of concept, yeah, and that will definitely speed up the implementation. Yeah. So this is talking about the link between project management and program management. So there is a direct link, yeah, of use of methodologies such as Agile PM, MSP, Prince2, and the idea is, let me just go there, and I'll insert this. The idea is with project management and program management, here's my project manager, going to create a box, and at some point that box is going to be rolled out to business as usual. On the underside, what colour shall I choose? Purple. On the underside, one of the things that should happen with the change management side we should be doing some comms, probably do a skills audit, yeah, do training, yeah. And just before the box gets rolled out here, one of the things we need to think about is doing a readiness assessment. Okay. That is something we don't do on a regular basis, because what tends to happen in projects is we just drop the box without seeing if the people are ready. Yeah. The other thing that I see is that training takes possibly here 6 months before the box arrives. So let's look at SharePoint 365, and then people have the box and they go, that's a nice box, but I don't know how to use it, or I've forgotten how to use it. Okay, so in the perfect world, we should be looking at 48 hours before box rolls out. And what should happen is there will always be output drop. And then when people start getting used to it, this is a time period. So the quicker the time, the better it is for both individuals and organisations. And when they're at the same level, so if they were doing 1,000 invoices, they're now doing 1,001. Now you can start seeing benefits. Yeah? And this is directly linked to management of projects, programs, methodology. Yeah, so this is the change management is the underside. Yeah? So there is a direct link on using some of the methodologies. I don't know what methodologies you do use, but some of them are, you may be familiar with MSP. This is for program management. Prince2, you might be familiar with. Yeah, and Agile PM. Agile PM is a new methodology that started to be bantered around organisations. And the idea with Agile PM is as you're going along, you're rolling out incrementally. So this is good for people because people don't want to do change all in one go. They go, okay, let's get familiar with the IT system. Okay, we're familiar with the IT system. Let's move on to the next change. Yeah, we got used to that change. Let's move on to the next change. And so that's a lot easier than doing a big bang approach. Yeah. Be interested to see what your thoughts are and if you use any of the methodologies. Yeah. Does anyone use Prince2, MSP, Agile PM here? Yeah. So let's see what we've got here. Yep. Correct that only change can only work with correct comms. Yep. Yeah, change needs to start from the top. We have input for those who would be impacted and address their ideas and concerns before the change is implemented. Yeah, we say it comes from the top, but you know, it's not the top that's actually doing the change. It is actually individuals. So the more you get buy-in, the better you'll get with benefits. Yeah. And some of you are doing Prince2. Some of you will be familiar with Prince2, MSP in your own organisations. Yeah. But unfortunately, going back to methodologies, if we are looking at cutting costs, guess what? This one goes. Because senior management think that people are able to pick up easily, yeah, get familiar with certain things that you're rolling out. Training's expensive, yeah. Supporting people is expensive. So they go, oh, forget that bit. We don't want to, you know, get involved in that. Let's just cut the training. They'll pick it up. But the problem is when you do that, what you actually end up is this. Yeah. And this is a slippery slope because what this means is that people obviously can't get familiar with the change, but also you've lost them. Yeah. And when you've lost the trust, then there is a different relationship between organization and individual. Okay. And so they'll go, okay, why do we need to change? Not interested. Yeah. So going back to the comment made, yes, you need to bring them along. Yeah. Yeah. What is the biggest mistake organisations make while managing change? One of the biggest mistakes is that they believe people have the capability and the capacity to do the change. Yeah. Another one is money. Yeah. Money is a big thing. You need to spend as much time with people. That could be doing team briefings, line managers supporting people. To get the best out of people, you need to really understand what the change is all about to them rather than the organisation. Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Lack of comms and definitely lack of time to implement, so the comms is shortened. Yeah. Lack of proper planning is another one. Yeah. Now, if you're using a methodology like this, one of the things that you will find is this bit is the project management bit, and this is the change bit at the bottom. Okay. So it's taking people through the change. Yeah. And that goes back to the link between this. Yeah. PM, that stands for Program Project Management. Yeah, those are direct linked to change management here. Yeah. So, any questions about what we've covered so far? Yeah. No. This slide is talking about APMG effective change. Okay. This is the book used for the course, change management book. Yeah. And these are the areas that are covered. Yeah. So just understanding change, defining change, managing benefits, that's a key thing, because if you're not getting the benefits, then you haven't done the change correctly. Stakeholder engagement, yeah, stakeholder strategy, understanding how many people are winners, how many people are losers. Yeah. The more losers, the more change management you need to do. Yeah. Comms you mentioned, yeah. Impact on change, what you're expecting them to do. Are we ready for change? That one's quite an interesting one. Yeah. Senior management often think that you're ready for change. Yeah. But we haven't had the training, we haven't had the support before we even get to the program or project. Direct link between project management and program management. Yeah. Education, learning support, facilitation. Yeah. Facilitation is quite interesting. This is talking about workshops. Yeah. And you've already put in chat about workshops and getting buy-in. One of the things that you need to think about is that people like to have some control over their own destiny. And where organisations enforce change, you're more likely to see resistance. If you have taken people's opinions and thoughts and put them into the change, then you're more likely to have people buy in. And when people buy in, you're more likely to see change. Sustaining change is quite an interesting one. Sustaining change is talking about we've made the change and now we've got to keep going with the change. I'm pretty sure there are some organisations here where you have rolled out IT systems. SharePoint is a good example. And didn't provide the training, didn't provide the support, or you had limited training. And guess what? People don't use SharePoint. They go, oh yeah, we've got SharePoint, yeah. But we don't use it, yeah. Or we definitely don't use it to the capacity, that SharePoint is capable of doing, yeah. Personal and professional management, and taking into consideration organisational. Yeah? So the type of organisation this is talking about. There's lots of different types of organisations, and that leads us nicely to the different techniques that are covered in this course. Yeah. So it just gives you some ideas of exposure to some of these techniques. Yeah. Just going to take this first one on the top left-hand corner. This is talking about people within a team understand what the team set up to do, where it fits into the organisation, what my roles and responsibilities are, yeah, and how do I interact with each other. Yeah. This one is Tuckman, and I don't know whether you've come across Tuckman. One of the things that you will see when you look at change management, the best gurus around the 1950s, 1960s, as I said, Second World War. This is when you do forming, storming, norming, performing. Now, some of you may have been exposed to Agile, yeah, and Agile presumes that everyone's an SME, subject matter expert, and we are what we would call a high performance team. Okay, so high performance teams means that you are able to manage your work. You don't really need a line manager, and that you get on really well with each other. Yeah. Some of the other gurus here, McKinsey, this is McKinsey. McKinsey is all about creating target operating models. One of the things that McKinsey looks at is where you are now, which is your as is, versus your to be, where you want to be. Yeah. So as an organisation, you need to think, what have I got now? What do I want in the future, and how am I going to get there? Yeah. This little diagram here at the bottom is talking about Morgan's metaphors. Morgan's metaphors looks at the different structures within an organisation and culture. Yeah? So what we've got here on the right hand side is machine. So A reports to B, B reports to C, very grade orientated. Yeah? And then we've got an organism. An organism is when we're very team orientated, where we are looking at the external environment and how it impacts us and changing accordingly. Yeah. Just a couple of those. And political. There will always be politics within organisations, some more than others. Yeah. But then that leads us into this one. This one is this is Gruber-Ross. And Gruber-Ross's theory is that when you introduce change, yeah, the shock, can't believe that's happening to me, can't believe we're going to be using SharePoint, denial, we'll never use SharePoint, yeah. Anger and bargaining is when people are going, do I really need to use SharePoint? Yeah. Can I use something else? And then depression. Yeah. One of the things that you need to be mindful of with depression is people can leave the organisation here. Yeah. And then the idea is you come through that curve and accept the change. Yeah. Big part for line managers, because teams aren't all going to go 10, 10 people, 10 people, 10 people. It's not going to happen like that. What you're going to find is you're going to have shock, yeah, and then you're going to have some people remain in denial. Then you might have someone who are constantly angry, yeah, some start bargaining, yeah, and some may never ever get to acceptance. But as a line manager, this is where the change management comes in. One of the things that I need to be able to do is support people as I go through the change. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see what your thoughts are, yeah, on that. Yeah. Can the slides be bigger? Can you see that? Yeah. Does that work? Or can I do that? Does that work? Yeah. Yeah. Does that work? Let's see if I can. So that just gives you a feel of what's covered in the change management course. Yeah, there's lots of other stuff, but these are probably the top gurus. Yeah. So why do it? Yeah. Why go on a change management course? Yeah. Well, change management is really important. Yeah. It is important to take people with you to get the best out of people. And the change management syllabus covers individuals and how people respond to change. Yeah. Talks about change in the organisation. So you mentioned top down, yeah, and senior management, where they want to see the organisation go. Talks about comms and stakeholder engagement, and you've already mentioned change and comms. There is a key link. Stakeholder engagement is about making sure people are supported through the change. Make sure that you understand people. Make sure that you're doing the right comms. Yeah. Make sure you're doing it the right way. Yeah. And then change management practices, which I've just given you a flavour of. Yeah. And again, this wraps itself around project and programme management. So that leads us to foundation course. Yeah. Why go on a foundation course? These are the things that are going to be covered. Yeah. Very good qualification to get. Definitely if you're in projects and programs. Understanding why people do the things that they do. Yeah, and you're probably sitting there going, well, why won't you change? And you go, well, you're doing too much. Yeah. Or it could be, I'm just scared of change. Yeah. And then one of the things that change management should be able to do is you need to be able to support people through the change. I'm not saying that everyone will be able to change. Some people might need to leave an organisation. Yeah. But these are the things that would be covered. Understanding individuals, yeah, how organisations work, cultures. Each organisation has its own culture. Why do we need to do change? Drivers for change. Yeah. Change vision is an interesting one. So it'll be interesting to see what your thoughts are on vision statements of your own organisations. Do you think, one, you can tell me what it is, and two, do you actually understand what it means to you as an organisation, but also as individuals? Yeah. And is it clear enough? Yeah. How to prepare people for change? Yeah. Just be mindful that line managers have to buy into the change. Yeah. If line managers don't buy into the change, then one of the things that you will find, individuals won't buy into the change. So this is about supporting line managers as well as staff. Yeah. Learn about stakeholder engagement. So the sort of thing that's covered here is creating comms plans, understanding impact, understanding winners and losers, um, understanding the type of comms you're going to do. Yeah. Appreciate the impact on change on organisation, how to build momentum. So one of the things that you will find is when you start rolling out change, yeah, it's about making sure not only do you do the change, but you also sustain it. Otherwise, you'll end up going backwards, and you know there's no benefit of doing the change in the first place. Yeah. Now, the last bullet point is talking about change roles. You may have come across in your own organisation a role called business change manager. Now, a business change manager is someone who represents end users, yeah, and is also the one that when you come to the end of a program or project carries on measuring for benefits and making sure people continue to use whatever you've rolled out. Yeah. And on this course we cover the roles and responsibilities, and they are linked into program and project management. Yeah. So after doing the foundation, what do the practitioner? Okay. Well, the practitioners part of these exams are about applying change management. Yeah. So as it says, you have a case study, and now it's actually not just thinking what I would do in my own organisation. It's now applying best practice to a case study. Yeah. The sort of things that we would cover is levers. Yeah. Levers are talking about how we can get people to embrace the change. Okay. Peer pressure is a lever. Another one would be processes in place would be a lever. Yeah. And the idea is that you want to embed the change, because if you don't embed the change, you go back to the old ways of working. Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see what your thoughts are. Yeah. I mean, this is Charles Darwin. Yeah. It's not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can best manage change. So, you know, be interesting to see what your thoughts are. Yeah. Has anyone got any thoughts on that? Do you agree with that? Yeah. Yeah. Let's just have a look at some of the. Okay. Someone's written Prince 2 and also Scrum from Winkle, our customer's voice and understanding we are on the right track. Yeah. One that is quite interesting with Scrum. Scrum is a framework where you capture requirements from the end user and also incremental aspects. Yeah, is that as you're going along, you're rolling out into a live environment, and it's a customer voice. Yeah, so the customer, members of staff, public, are driving the change rather than at the top. Yeah. And as it says, we understand we're on the right track for success. Yeah. Talked about time. Time's the most important thing. Yeah. Lack of time to implement the change. One of the things that you need to think about is you need to spend plenty of time with this. Yeah. You need to set the seed. You need to explain it to people, and that goes back to honest comms. You know. Yeah. So what else have we got? Yeah. 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 Okay. Let's just see if there's anything. It's survival of the fittest. Yeah. Well, you can only be fit. That's an interesting statement. You can only be fit if your staff are fit and you start looking after them. Yeah. You know, you see organisations where people leave and you go, you haven't got an organisation anymore. Yeah. Yeah, Jazz, you said you're currently working on a large change program. Yeah, I mean, I've just given you a flavour. What you've got to be mindful of, this is a little bit of a slice of a big thing. Yeah. Comms templates, best practice, perhaps. Probably have got some comms templates that you can use. Definitely got some stakeholder engagement templates. It is now December, okay, or coming up to December. One of the things, I appreciate the course goes with the particular book. One of the things that I would do if you've got any time is to go around charity stores. And and definitely if there's universities in there, because students just dump their books at charity stores. Change management books are very, very expensive normally. Okay, so you're talking about 50, 60, 70 pounds a book. The other thing is that some of the complexity of change management makes these books hard to read. So one of the things I would do before I go and buy a book on Amazon, I would go and see it, yeah, and just have a feel and say, you know what, will I really read it or will I just put it on the bookshelf? Yeah. Think also we need to think about risks in the process and what's the risk of doing nothing. Yeah, totally agree with that. Matt saying I think we also need to think about risks. Yeah. One of the biggest risks is people leave the organisation, and when people leave the organisation, they actually take the knowledge. Yeah. And then communication, the business need for change, and staff can understand why. I think that's a key point to this. You know, people need to understand and have some control over it. Yeah. If they don't have any control over it, they go, why would I need to change? If you want to know more about change, yeah, I'm sure Suzanne and Jean-Paul will be able to give you some insight. Yeah. Another book that you might want to look at, I'll put it in chat. Because it's coming up to Christmas and you can have a Christmas present. It's an easy book to read. Yeah. This is again, if you're looking for books, yeah, to read, yeah, and are easy to read, then that one is definitely a good book. Yeah. Yeah. It's probably on its 5th, 6th edition, but first edition is just as good and you probably find it's cheaper. The other thing is you might want to look at managing successful programs. Yeah, there's lots of things on YouTube that you might want to have a look at. Oh, okay, Andrea, is it recommended that you hold a PM qualification like Prince 2 and Agile? No. Okay. You can complete it as a standalone. Yeah. One of the things you tend to find is there is project management and there is change management and there is a link across, but project management is a qualification in its own right. Change management is a separate qualification. Yeah. So I hope that you've enjoyed your session because I've just given you an oversight, yeah, of change management. As I said, just a slice because it's a big beast, yeah, and there's lots of research out there. The other thing I would also do, if you've got a chance, yeah, go on YouTube and some of the gurus, yeah, is on YouTube. Some of them will only give you snippets, like 10, 15 minutes. In some cases, you've got the whole seminar. Yeah. I'm just going to give you some that you might want to have a look at. So, Rosemary Cantor is very good for resistance to change. Yeah. Another one that you might want to have a look at is Charles Handy. Charles Handy is British. Yeah. Which is good because there's a British slant rather than an American slant. You might want to look at Gotter. Yeah. Some Maslow's theory is 1943, but still one of the best gurus for motivation. Yeah. Gruber-Ross theory is about individual emotions. Gruber-Ross is based on 1960s, is based on the emotions people go through when they're told they've got cancer. Yeah, so shock, denial, can't believe it. Yeah, if I take my chemo, and then depression. But it's good that you see the emotions because change in general terms, you know, would go through those emotions with individuals. Okay. So I hope you've enjoyed your session. Yeah. Just gives you an idea. Yeah. Great qualification. Yeah. And certainly will open doors for you career-wise. Yeah. Anyone got any more questions? Yeah, I believe there's a video of this and you'll be able to have access to it. Yeah. 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 So have a great week, or the rest of the week. I know it's going to snow, isn't it? Yeah. Let's have a look. What are the options career-wise? Okay, that's an interesting one. Okay, career-wise, one of the things that you can do is go into project management. Yeah, support projects, support programs. Yeah. Anyone else got any questions? Well, I hope to see you soon.